Hey there, it's Nacho here, and this is the Agentic Project, the podcast where Dani, my co host, and I bring you the minds building the future of agentic AI. This is your front row seat to get all the tips and tricks to stay ahead of the curve. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. We are back with the Agentic Project, and today we have Vitaly, the CEO and co-founder of Dynamiq. So Vitaly, we would like to, first of all, what is Dynamiq? What are you guys working on? And also give a little bit about yourself.
Hey everyone. So I'm Vitaly. I'm the founder and CEO at Dynamiq. What we're building is the operating platform for agentic AI. So basically helping engineers and data scientists to quickly prototype and deploy their agentic applications and do other things that you would need during this process, like tracing and observability, evaluations, grounding your agents with your internal data, swapping different LLMs, maybe deploying your instances of open source LLMs as well. So that's kind of what we do. We cover quite a lot of things, but ultimate goal is to provide companies and engineers with this end-to-end operating platform that will simplify their day-to-day life when it comes to building agentic AI.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that brief intro. So everyone is into context. So Dynamiq started about a year ago, more or less, if I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. We
Uh,
started roughly like Q1 2024. So now almost a year now.
And what came through your mind that was like, okay, the world needs this. I'm gonna start working on this. Back at the time, we already had some solutions, more like workflow builders, maybe not so Gen AI application builders, but we had N8N and we had other solutions. So what was in your mind that was like, okay, we need to make something different. This product has to be out there.
So first of all, like when the idea kind of came together, um, mm, I guess I didn't know about all the competition that existed out there, or maybe not all competition existed at that time. Not everything was as popular or stuff like that. Because I guess if I knew ahead of time, like you can get discouraged and maybe not even start at all. But the main kind of driver was that I spent, as I said before, past 10 years working as a data scientist and also spent a couple of years as well building internal ML ops tools at several different companies. So that's where the passion for dev tools and platforms stems from. So I always wanted to do something in this space. I've been doing some attempts in the past. Uh, I guess the first time I ever tried building some sort of platform like this was back in like 2014 when I was just starting my career as a data scientist. And then back then I had this challenge that some of the data science workloads would take forever to run on my computer, and I was trying to build a server where I can just push jobs, and they're gonna run on that server, and then I can just pull the status and stuff like that. So like more like Airflow type of thing, but for data science ML jobs. But obviously mm, back then I didn't know anything about like venture capital or anything, so I just built something, and then obviously I had full-time jobs, so just kind of dropped it at that time. But then fast forward to somewhere around like 2022. Um, Back then, I already thought, or like even 2021, like somewhere between 2021 and 2022, I thought about building a A/B testing platform as a startup, because that's something as well that I had experience at building in some of the previous companies, and I was thinking, that's a great business, but then I did quite a lot of research on competition, and then got discouraged, and then dropped that idea. So with Dynamiq, obviously the main thing that triggered this was the fact that ChatGPT got released. There was a lot of hype around this. We finally realized that there's tremendous value in LLMs, and they can solve a lot of tasks. And more importantly, what I've realized, and a lot of people realized, that LLMs will replace the whole subset of machine learning, like old school machine learning models. So if we used to train before some classifiers, uh, sentiment analysis models, and things like that, now the whole bunch of these tasks are done by LLMs just with different prompts. So I've realized that engineers in data science, they will need some tooling to kind of deal with that. And similarly to how we had like classic ML ops platforms, something going to be needed in this space. And yeah, that was the combination, like the passion towards this types of solutions like dev tools and platforms, but also the changing world order. Um, some kind of research and competition, but I think uh, the more you think about this, the more kind of discouraged you can be. So it's important to start if you really want to start. And I was at the point where I was like, yeah, I need to do something. So yeah.
Yeah, because regarding competition, like it's today in the end there are a lot of platforms out there like NA10, but in the end the market is going to expand, right? It's already big, but it's going to get bigger. So actually, I was wondering, how do you plan to differentiate from the typical example? It's NA10, right? Like you go to YouTube and everyone is
Yeah.
using NA10. It works quite good, to be honest. So I'm wondering, how do you plan uh, to provide something to the market that these kind of tools are not already providing?
Yeah, no, look, N8N is a great tool. I guess the marketing efforts that they drive are quite amazing. And you're right, like you go to YouTube, just everyone is, or like even on LinkedIn, everyone is building something on a N8N. Like we're coming from slightly different angle. So we're coming at a slightly different angle from like engineering perspective. So offering first of all, we also have the open source package that is kind of similar to, let's say, LangChain. And this is something that we've used as part of our commercial platform as well. So our vision is that these going to be like cohesive pieces of the puzzle. So you can build something using our open source package and then deploy on the cloud platform, like deploy your agents on the cloud platform and get like observability and all the other features. But also, what we're releasing is the ability to actually build, let's say, agents and workflows in the UI, but then you can download them as Python code. So like serialize it to Python code. But like what we do beyond what N8N offers is the evaluation piece that helps you kind of do a very deep technical evaluation of your LLM based workflows is kind of one of the built-in features. So you can build the workflow, but then you can also create the test set, run the evaluation using different types of metrics, whether define these metrics using Python code or use another LLM as a judge or use some pre-built metrics for RAG that we've created. So that's something that, let's say, platforms like N8N do not offer. Then there's also an option to actually, in a couple of clicks, deploy an open source model like Llama in your own infrastructure. So if you want to build like fully isolated agent or a workflow that doesn't rely on cloud-based models like OpenAI, you can do this in Dynamiq. Same goes for like vector databases. You can plug in existing vector databases, but you can also deploy a vector database like Viviat in your private kind of infrastructure to build fully isolated RAG applications. So that's kind of another thing that, let's say, N8N doesn't offer. Same goes for like fine tuning of these open source models. Same goes for like creating the knowledge bases where you want to create a knowledge base and define which pre-processing strategy, which embedding model to use, which vector store to use. So yeah, in that sense, we're different. We're offering more uh, features centered towards engineers and more technical teams. Whether I would say N8N is more focused on solo developers or people who are
Yeah.
building something for themselves.
Yeah, actually, I have this feeling with NA10. Like, it's a great tool for building workflows for yourself. Like, if you're building B2C, let's say. But if you're trying to build something that has to scale, or that, that you need to have like some kind of monitoring or evaluation that you were saying that maybe your platform has, NA10 it's quite limited, right? So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of hype with NA10 because everyone is building a lot of workflows, and these workflows that you see in this social media are huge, but moving this to production, it has to be like crazy.
Yeah.
So it's good that you are also tackling this part of monitoring and evaluating how this process is working, right? So
Yeah.
you were also mentioning that you have this open source part. In the end, like the business model is going to be like trying to charge for the cloud, for the hosting this open source solution for the clients, or how do you plan to make money at the end?
Yeah. So look, so open source is just part of what we do. I think again, as compared to, let's say, LangChain, it's not our core offering. At the end, we've decided to release it because we wanted to contribute to community. And at the end, when we started building the platform, we've been evaluating options like how do we go about the underlying LLM management or workflow management piece. Like, what do we use there? And at first, we thought maybe we can use something like LangChain, but then realized that there are too many constraints, and we want to do something slightly differently. So that's why we built something of our own, like a library that kind of like a mixture of LangChain capabilities plus some cyclic graph like DAG capabilities, and a few other things like Llama Index for RAG. So we decided to build it on our own, and then open source it as part of this kind of initiative. But our core business is offering the both like cloud-based version of the product where users can build and deploy these solutions, monitor, evaluate. But also we have the on-premise option, so we can deploy in the private VPC of the customer or on bare metal servers in their infrastructure. So if someone wants to build like fully isolated environment, so that's also a big part of what we do, like providing the full customized deployment in your infrastructure for the most sensitive customers. So open source piece is there for engineers to kind of start building something quickly and testing locally, but the way we make money is on our like cloud and on-premise offerings.
In the end, it's a very powerful acquisition strategy, isn't it? Like providing something open source. Like we see a lot of these frameworks like LangGraph or NA10 as well. Like if you provide this open source package, you can have like build a huge community, and maybe out of these 100% users that are using the open source, like 20, I don't know, maybe the percentages than us, like you can manage to charge them for hosting this solution, isn't it? Does it work like that? I have no idea. I'm just asking because.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's part of the. You're right. It's part of like GTM, like offering something to the community to kind of use for free, and then when they see the value and they want to move to production, they obviously would need all the other things that I mentioned, right? Like the observability, tracing, and other things. So that's when they consider the paid option, the cloud option, or like a fully managed private VPC deployment. So you're right. That's kind of part of the GTM strategy.
Now that you mention, well, now that we get slightly on the GTM side, that's kind of more on my end. I have a question because I guess you're like a B2B platform. You tackle more enterprises. I don't know if you could tell us what I'm curious about is not just like if you're targeting smaller startups or going larger enterprises, but my question is, what are the main objections that you face regarding security, data protection, and all of that when you go pitch Dynamiq to your like leads and clients?
Yeah, I think look, the objections they kind of differ depending on segment, right? When you talk to larger enterprises, I guess the natural thing that they have is all these questions about the security and privacy and uh, the way it can be deployed, and that's why we from like day one decided to have the ability to be independent of the cloud that we run on or the infrastructure that we run on, have everything in Terraform, so basically infrastructure as a code, and be able to deploy in pretty much any infrastructure. So that kind of ticks the box. But then, you know, other enterprises might be very slow to adopt things, right? So they like it, but they move extremely slow when it comes to adoption. And as well, big companies prefer other big vendors, right? They rarely decide to go with smaller startup just like that. Obviously, more innovative enterprises do, but majority they would say, oh, like what does Microsoft offer us, or what does maybe Databricks offer us in this space. So that's kind of the main objection there. Like, how do you convince them that they should go with something more innovative, but smaller in size? And then mid-market, I think for us probably is a sweet spot these days, because these are the companies that are fast, agile. They have budgets still, but they can move much faster, and this is the sweet spot. We don't really at the moment target like very small companies or like even individuals yet, but we might in the future, just because um, I believe that the platforms like ours still require some learning time. Sorry, and then we just, as a small team, we don't have enough capacity to kind of have attention towards everyone. And self onboarding is a great thing. We also have it, but in the early days of the industry, like Gen AI, there's a lot of education involved. Um, that's why we also kind of learn something from NA10 and trying to implement like engage the community and affiliates and people who can be our ambassadors and maybe take part in the journey as well. But yeah, like sweet spot for us right now is kind of mid market. Let's say Series A, B, C companies.
Okay, fair enough. Got it. And also like not in this line, but slightly something different. It's all in our feeds now. Everyone is talking about MCPs. We see reasoning models coming out every week, and you guys offer these like workflow builders and Gen AI applications builders. How does the team manage to stay up to date with everything that is being launched every week? How do you manage to connect like any like reasoning model that comes out or any new LLM to be able for anyone to plug it in your workflow and whatever? How is your product team reacting to that, and how you guys manage to stay up to date with everything?
Uh, I mean, look, it's challenging. I would say it transparently. The space definitely moves at the speed of light. Just yeah, sometimes hard to keep up. Like, you always need to be like on the lookout what's been released, what's happening, and how indeed, like, how do you change your product strategy? Like, do you need to change something or you don't? Like, with I guess with new LLMs and new providers coming up or new models coming out, like reasoning or not, we're more or less kind of streamline that process. So we now can add things quite quickly. But I guess when it comes to things like MCP, we've been watching it since I think last November when Anthropic released it. But for some reason, in the first 2-3 months, it didn't kind of get that much attention. And now over the past like few weeks, it just exploded. Still, there's a question whether other players will adopt it. So whether OpenAI will adopt it or not. So it's not clear if MCP will become the de facto like standard to connect external tools to LLMs, but we've decided to invest in it as well. So we're working on something to also launch and have as part of our platform. That's kind of part of the journey, right? If everything is so early and so kind of nascent as it is in Gen AI right now, you need to make some bets. Maybe some of them will work, some of them will not. But it's inevitable. You need to be super fast, super flexible, and that's why I think the things like 2-week sprints or something just don't work. What we run is like the pure Kanban thing where if something needs to be deprioritized, it gets deprioritized, and something else gets prioritized. So you need to be super flexible, and that's kind of why I guess bigger companies lag behind, because they don't have that flexibility. They need to do everything by the book, but here you need sometimes to break rules and yeah.
Now that you are mentioning this phenomenon of the MCP, like 3 months in the market, nothing happens, and then like 2 weeks ago, everyone is getting crazy. So it seems like there's kind of hype, right? Like something, it's there, but suddenly someone starts talking about it, everyone jumps to the bandwagon. I'm wondering, how do you manage to differentiate hype and what's of real utility in this nowadays?
I mean, look, the MCP example, I guess the reason why, this is my hunch, like why it got so much attention is it got integrated into platforms like Cursor and Windsurf, which have like a mass adoption throughout like a lot of users. So like millions of users suddenly learned like what is MCP, and that drove the kind of the attention. I guess you need to look whether it's a useful technology in the long run. I think it is. There's nothing special about it, because we've been doing this as well before. Like we already had the capability to connect your external APIs to as tools to LLM models, or even create tools for LLMs in pure Python. We just didn't kind of develop a sophisticated protocol as Anthropic did, but I as I said, I have doubts whether it's going to be like widely accepted, because it needs adoption from folks at OpenAI as well. So it might not be that widely adopted. And this is an example. This is not new, right? Like if you go back to the beginning of the internet, where in the early 90s or mid 90s, like new protocols were coming up. Some things became industry standards, some things didn't. Everything from like TCP/IP or other things, or even like programming languages or like web standards. Some things survived, some things didn't, and it's going to be the same here. So it's very hard to say what's going to stay, what's going to go, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Sweet. Dani, I don't know if you have any more questions.
Not well. Actually, maybe this is platform specific. At some point, when you were talking about the features within Dynamiq, you were saying that you also offer the capability to fine tune models. And in our last podcast, we had Joel, the CEO of Humaitis, and he has fine tuned his own model in order to create a more powerful router model, let's say, of using open source or Llama. I'm not sure what was the model. I'm wondering, what's your take on fine-tuning models? Because in some years ago, it was something like it was very expensive, and well, actually some years ago you couldn't fine-tune, you had to like train from scratch, right? But nowadays that you have like these open source models and that you can fine-tune them according to your data. I don't know. I'm just wanting to know a bit what's your take on this, on fine-tuning your like open source models, because it seems that building a ChatGPT wrapper, it's quite easy. If you manage to get some proprietary data and manage to fine-tune something, maybe you can build something more powerful. What do you think about it?
So look, I think fine-tuning, there's a lot of misconception about fine-tuning because a lot of customers that I talk to, they sometimes say, oh, like we need to fine-tune our own model. And reality is that in 99% of the cases, you probably don't need to fine-tune anything these days. First, because there's so many powerful models out there of different sizes and flavors and different costs, and things that are getting released super fast as well. So you can fine-tune the model, but then the reality is in 3 months it might become irrelevant because something else will come up that is better. Like let's say yesterday Mistral released a new model, like a small, I forgot, like 24 billion parameters or something that beats the model that Google released maybe a couple of weeks ago, Gemma 3, which was also quite small, like 23 billion parameters. Already, working on a variety of languages. I think out of the box supported like 35 languages. So you can fine tune something, but you need really understand, why you're doing this, and you need to exhaust all the other options. You need to really exhaust, let's say, RAG to the maximum, or other things, maybe like connecting external tools to improve that. So I wouldn't suggest like average user to actually start with fine tuning, because by the time you finish, there's probably something that is much better already available on the market. Because indeed, fine tuning is not becoming cheaper, but still it costs something. It's not free, especially if we're talking about fine tuning of open source models, because the fine tuning might be cheap, but then you need to run this model. A lot of customers that I talk to, they say, "Oh, we want our private instance of Llama to run." But then when you start explaining them how much it's going to cost them in terms of the infrastructure, then they're not ready for that cost. Like even if it's a couple of $1,000 a month, they don't realize that these models are quite big. They require a lot of compute to run. So you can fine tune, but then are you ready to pay a couple of $1,000 or maybe like $10,000 to run this? That's the question. So again, I'm not saying that there are now no use cases for fine tuning. Of course there are, and people are doing this and building something that beats generic models. But I think you really need to understand why and how, and all the implications that come with it. So even with like these routers, right? This is one of the features that as well we're building, but we're not going to fine tune a specific model to become a router. You can use already Gemma or Mistral or other small model as this kind of routing model that will decide where to send the request. And what we're building is more like an infrastructure that will allow you to plug any models to do the routing.
So as you are saying, like AI is being commoditized. Like you have access to the latest model. Everyone has access to the latest models. So for those builders out there that want to make a business and trying to remain competitive, how do you manage to establish some some competitive advantage if having access to this latest model, I mean, it's no longer an advantage, right? You don't have to, I mean, it doesn't make sense to fine tune. You cannot, you don't have a competitive advantage just because you have a powerful model because everyone has access to it. So how do you manage to build something that it's like that goes beyond the simpler ChatGPT wrapper, as I was saying before?
Look, I think I have several friends that, more like colleagues that I know that have built very successful businesses, and everyone was telling them, "Or you're just building another uh, ChatGPT wrapper or any other like Gen AI model wrapper," but it didn't stop them from getting to like millions of ARR, just because they've been solving something for users, like a pain point for users. And you need to understand that the majority of mm, customers, they maybe don't even want to care like which LLM is used here. Like, is it the reasoning model or not reasoning model? They just want to solve some pain point. Like if you think about the customer support, mm, of course, there's going to be some part of customers that want to play around with LLMs and build a customer support agent on their own. But majority of customers, if you think about it, they just want to plug it into their different kind of messaging channels, an agent that will just magically solve their customer support. So they don't really care like whether it's LLM or not LLM. It just should answer fast. It should be cheap and accurate, right? So I think the main focus for most of the people who are building something should be not on the, whether there's some moat or defensibility in which kind of technology do you use, but like more in the distribution and what kind of problems are you solving? Because there's very little, I would say, technical defensibility right now. Everything can be replicated. Pretty much any software that is out there can be replicated quite fast. What matters is kind of distribution and your access to customers and your ability to actually solve their problems, keep them happy and satisfied. That's the most important thing. Like models wouldn't matter at all.
Talking about the distribution, I totally agree with you. I think like distribution is key, and having we believe that having a personal brand will be the competitive advantage. So you can have access to your potential customers like immediately. I've seen that. Well, are you actually trying to build a personal brand? Yes, no. If yes, how are you doing it? If no, why aren't you doing it?
No, 100%. I mean, this is something as well I've realized that is quite important. Like personal brand is something in the works. So still figuring out like the ways, but definitely working on that. Because I also agree there's yeah, if you don't have like a personal brand, then selling is going to be much more challenging. And this is proven by many other businesses, especially over the past kind of several years. So definitely, definitely doing that. And so, there's so many channels right now from LinkedIn that also launched the reels or like short videos that everyone is leveraging. So thinking about that route as well, we're actually like doing some prep work and already planning to record some content. Yeah, other channels as well, like content marketing is quite important. So definitely the personal brand thing is going to be the key. Um,
Cool. Okay, I think I have no more questions from my side. Maybe we can jump into the last section of the podcast where we shot 1 minute questions to you.
sure.
Some of them are quite original, some of them not.
Yeah, they're actually pretty short. They're actually pretty short.
Let's
So,
go.
yeah, first question. This you probably heard this a couple times, but what is the one skill that you would recommend a 20-year-old today to have in order to stand out 5 years from now? Both technical
Learn how
skill and
to
soft skill.
sell.
Okay,
Yeah,
learn how to sell.
learn how to
For,
sell. That's non-technical skill for sure, really relevant. But technical skill, it's still coding. Like you still, it's still important to know how to code because even if you manage people, you want to understand things behind your engineers, like what they actually produce.
right. So these all these vibe coding is not gonna kill the software engineer role in a few years from now, as some are speculating. Not that I believe so.
I mean, I don't believe. I don't even like the term wipe coding because
Yeah.
it's weird to me. But no, I think you see that yeah, it's creating a lot of hype, but at the end, there's still a lot of steps to take to then push what you've created while vibe coding to production. You can create like I see like almost every day on Twitter or on LinkedIn, like people, oh, I've created this, but then yeah, it's a nice demo, but like it's not a production ready product. Still, engineering is going to be important. It's just that every engineer would need to learn how to use all these tools to be more productive.
Yeah, I myself, I'm not a developer myself, and I'm vibe coding my own like apps for daily use, and I get frustrated because they just don't execute. They're like, I get the cool UI and everything, and the first interactions work, but then when you get to the database and so on, the tool is not working properly. So it's quite frustrating. So I totally agree that like if you're out there like and doubting whether you want to start learning how to code, don't doubt, just like go for it. Okay, another question. You have lived in Dubai and San Francisco, right? What is a better city to start or have your own company in? In Dubai, you have like all these tax like benefits, but then in San Francisco, you have all the network and all the connections and all the everything
Yeah.
is going on in there. So what you've lived in both cities, which one would you prefer for running a business?
Mm, yeah, so it's a tricky question. So when it comes to business and specifically if you're building something in AI, definitely San Francisco because of the network and everything that is happening out there. But I think when it comes to just a great lifestyle, it's Dubai when it comes to safety and everything else. So yeah, it's a hard trade-off, I guess.
I'll
Hard
take
to
it.
pick.
Yeah. Yeah. You said a keyword, safety, I guess. Maybe in San Francisco, wherever you go, you may not feel so safe. Well,
That's
depending on
true.
where you're going. Yeah.
I think that was the first city uh, where I generally felt not safe. Like
Yeah.
that's yeah,
Same. Same.
that's
Same. I usually feel safe everywhere I go, but when I'm in San Francisco, oh boy. And last question, Danny, the golden question. That one is on you.
Okay, well, I actually have two more questions. Maybe
Okay,
let's go
go
for
for it.
this one first. So, you have 1 billion people listening to you right now. You have 1 minute for yourself. Just tell them whatever you want. No promo allowed.
no promo allowed.
Try to make an impact on all these people.
Yeah. What's
1
your
billion people.
Martin Luther King message?
Oh wow. Oh, that's something I wasn't prepared for, but
Take
I
your
guess
time, take your time.
my thing is that mm, which might sound a bit contradictory, but I think a lot of people are idolizing this entrepreneurial life and thinking, you know, being your own boss and building your own business is quite nice, and it's not easy. I guess uh, some time ago I was listening to this interview of Jensen Huang, who was asked if he was starting a business now, like what he would do differently. He was say like I wouldn't start. So I think, yeah, if you're thinking of starting a business, just think twice because it's definitely a sacrifice for your personal life, sometimes for health and other things. So it's not easy. It's going to be tough. There's going to be no one to rely on. Um, so maybe that's not the most important thing in the life. Like if you approach it from philosophical standpoint, maybe there are other easier, better things to do to be happy. Because
Uh,
entrepreneurship, the path to happiness is quite long, I guess. It's going to be many years where it's going to be rough.
you are the fourth entrepreneur that we asked this question, and we have had the same answer three times. So 75% of the entrepreneurs we have interviewed, they have the same answer.
See, like
So maybe there's
there's
a
something.
pattern there.
There is something.
Yeah. See, and Danny, your
Okay,
last one.
well, actually two more. One very brief. Favorite sport?
Mm, something between. I mean, I don't have like from like favorite thing, but really enjoy recently swimming. And kind of same at the same level, probably yoga as well, which is probably not a sport, but
Ooh,
I think it's good for your health. Like it definitely
Hmm.
good for your health and brain.
Yeah,
nice. Okay,
good
and
for
last
the founder
question.
lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So last question. Imagine you can travel to the future 1 year from now, and you can discover one thing that is going to happen. So then you can, with this information, you can go back to the present and use it. What's this thing that you would like to know?
Oh, I don't know, like price of Bitcoin. No, I'm
Man,
joking.
I
Uh,
I know
I
you're gonna
knew
tell me that.
that was
I
in my
know you're
head. That
gonna tell
was
me
in my
that.
head. That was in all of our heads. Yeah, I was like, he's gonna say Bitcoin.
In,
yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not.
investing information is forbidden.
Yeah, yeah, it's no, in the yeah, I would say the things I'm curious about is like where do we, like did we achieve AGI or like how far from AGI we are? Like what are the current state uh of the models like 1 year from now? Like did we make some kind of giant leap or no, or it's just like incremental improvements from the models that we have today? I think that's something that will kind of dictate a lot of things, like whether we have much more powerful models than we do today, or it's just incremental improvements of the existing ones.
What's your take on that, actually? Do you think?
I feel that again, I might be wrong, but I feel that it's going to be incremental improvements. I don't feel that there's going to be something like outrageously more better than what we have today, because that's how it was um, even over the past year. Like, of course, we had reasoning models. They done quite a good job with a lot of like hard tasks. Um, but I don't think it felt like this giant leap as when let's say ChatGPT was released, because we already kind of used to all these things, and it just felt to us like as an incremental improvement. Um, so I feel it's going to continue like that. I feel, uh, yeah, we probably in a year we won't have like AGI. We're going to be close. There's going to be better models, going to be better tooling, better frameworks for building agents, better tools. So it's gonna create a lot of nice applications, but I don't think it's gonna be that giant leap yet, at least.
Hmm. Well, it's true that in the end, from the release of GPT 4.5, like if you compare GPT 4, well, the O1 reasoning with 4.5, there's no much difference. Same with 3.7 and 3.5 of Claude. Uh, so let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, I think we're done for today. Vitaly, it was amazing to have you on board. Thank you so much for taking the time. I think we had a
Yeah,
really interesting conversation. So we really appreciated having you here. one last thing, where can they find you? Where can listeners find you?
Uh, LinkedIn, I'm very responsive. Like if you can drop a link or just find me by my name, you can add me. Pretty responsive. Text me. Thanks,
Thank you very
guys.
much, Vitaly.
Was great chatting. Thank you. See you. Bye bye.